This is Chris, the Idaho Painter. This is part 3 on my series of how to epoxy your own garage floor. So stay tuned as we begin the actual application process of epoxying your floor. And we're getting ready to do the epoxy process, and we've got to mix our 2 parts of epoxy and let them sweat, a process of allowing them to activate before we begin applying it on the floor. Prior to this 3rd video, I got my first video on acid etching and power washing the floor, and then the 2nd video, which is caulking all the cracks and getting it ready to epoxy. And now we're on this 3rd part, part 3 of our video series, epoxying the garage floor. So stay tuned to mixing up the epoxy, and we're going to show you that process. So I'm now ready here to mix my epoxy together, and the epoxy we use is a 2-part industrial epoxy, and you're going to have a part A and a part B. This is part B, and then we've got a part A right here, and part A is actually the color itself. And we're going to take and mix, there's a label covering the A, but that's just, there's 4 together right here. Part A, part B, part A, part B. And then we also got a thinner right here on our first coat of epoxy. We thin our first coat, that makes it absorb it into the concrete a lot better. We've got a measuring cup right here to measure out our thinner, which is a reducer 54 to thin our epoxy. I've got some rubber gloves because I don't want to get this stuff on my hands. I've got just a throwaway brush that I can scrape out my gallon cans. I've got a way that I can actually mix it, and then I've got a lid to put on my 5-gallon bucket while it's sweating. And the sweating process is actually mixing part A and part B together and allowing it to sit and activate. And you want to take and read the instructions on your epoxy, your 2-part epoxy, and make sure you allow it to sweat the proper amount of time so you get the hardness out of the epoxy coat before it or after it dries. So now I'm going to show you this part of mixing these 2 together, and then we're going to go apply it on our floor. So we got part B right here, and this is the clear one. Just dumping this in here. If you want to see my previous videos, part 1 and part 2 of my video series, at the end of this video I'll have them posted where you can just click on the video and go back and watch part 1 and 2. And I got my throwaway brush right here. This is just to scrape out everything out of these gallons, to get everything out of them, because this stuff is really expensive and I don't want any to go to waste. Now I'm going to begin adding my thinning compound, which is reducer 54, and I like to typically reduce it about 10%. And what I'm going to do is I got 4 gallons in here, which is 2 kits of epoxy, and I'm going to add in, what I like to do is typically add in 2 pints of reducer 54, and that's going to make it thin enough to absorb a little bit better into your concrete on your first coat. On your second coat, I don't add any thinner or reduce my epoxy at all. I'm going to begin mixing it up with my drill. Got a drill with a mixer right here. And then once I got it all mixed, I'm going to check the time, and then per my instructions I want to make sure it sweats for at least that amount of time. Right now it's 2 o'clock, so I'm going to wait till it's time before I start applying my epoxy. Don't forget, during my videos, anytime all the tools and accessories we're using to do our floors or our paint jobs can be purchased right on my Amazon tool store. Anytime you see the logo right there, that's the link to my Amazon tool store. You can buy simple little things like a 5-in-1 or other fancy tools that I have, even an airless sprayer. So go check it out. Anytime you see that link, you can just click on it. It'll take you right to my website, which has my Amazon tool store. Okay, now here we are, our garage floor. We got our product all sweating, and which is the actual process of mixing up the A and B of our 2-part epoxy, and the sweating is the activating of those 2 parts. And our epoxy that we're actually using, it takes a half-hour sweat time, so it's been that half hour. Now we're going to begin on our floor, begin rolling it on our floor. But prior to that, we want to blow out any dust or debris that's on our floor, scrape off anything, walk around the floor really, and look really closely at the floor floor. Make sure there's no glue or anything on the floor. There's a lot of times on your garage floors there's carpet glue in new construction when they're doing the carpet. So check for any glue, any caulking, or anything on the floor that you don't want to epoxy over and scrape it off. And then blow this thing out really good. And then we've got to actually chalk a line where our garage doors go down, because we don't want the garage doors to set on top of the epoxy. So you want to determine where your garage doors are, chalk a line, run some tape, 1.5-inch tape, and that will make a nice line where your epoxy will be. And we're going to begin that process right now. So now we got our line chalked, we got it masked off to make a nice crisp line where the garage doors go down. We're going to begin rolling the epoxy, and I like to have two people. I like to have one person doing all the cut-ins and footings around the edges, and then another person rolling. And I'll be rolling, and I like using just a 9-inch roller with a mohair nap, and it's just a little thin nap, and that's what I like to use when I'm applying my epoxy. The person doing the cut-ins is just using a 4-inch nap with a brush, just throwaway tools. That way when we're done with the epoxy, we just throw away all the tools. Even your 9-inch roller, it's going to get epoxy all over it, and it's pretty much going to ruin the roller. So don't use anything expensive, because we just throw it all away. So here we go. So we're going to be starting in this far corner. We've got John, he's going to be doing the cut-ins. It's a good idea to have some rubber gloves, so you'll get this epoxy on your hands, and it's really nasty stuff. You don't want to have to clean it off with chemicals. So get yourself a box of throwaway gloves, or just some rubber gloves that once you get it on it, that you can throw those gloves away too. And then have an extension pole long enough. I like to use an extension pole about this size, because you're going to be rolling square to square and laying it out. So you need an extension pole that's going to reach far enough so you can do your layout. So here's a few tips. We're just working right along on this floor, and John's doing all the cut-ins, and I'm doing the rolling. In the first coat, what I'm trying to do is just roll it and put enough pressure, because I want to actually push that epoxy down into the pores of the concrete and get a really good seal and a really good bite. So I'm putting a lot of pressure, and I'm not worried about laying my first coat out. My second coat is going to be really important to lay it out to get your brush or your roller strokes looking really nice and get a good nice layout on it. But the first coat, the important part, is just pushing hard enough and getting enough pressure. And you don't want a really thick layer, you want a nice thin layer that's going to absorb into the concrete really well. And then when I'm rolling, I always keep my roller, the point of my roller faced to my left side as I'm rolling, and that way the actual the roller cover itself won't come off your roller cage. So I always keep it pointed to the left, and that's just kind of a little simple little trick there. Another tip here is I'm just working right out of a 5-gallon bucket. I don't have a screen in it or anything, but all my parts were just mixed into a 5-gallon, just dipping it in to that 5-gallon bucket and rolling it out. And I'm just sliding my bucket right along the concrete with my extension pole when I need to. Another good tip is if you're actually doing this epoxy floor for a customer, you need to close the garage doors, not all the way, but down a certain amount. So you want to make sure that garage door, if you don't have access to the house, that you can actually close the garage door. So you either have the code, but it's better to have it not where it goes down with the code, but just pull the little release lever so you can just slide the garage door, let it get down and set on top of a 1 gallon bucket or so. So make sure that you have access to get out. We just work our way out and then grab the garage door and just lower it lightly and set it on a 1 gallon bucket.
I'll have to order them in online, huh?
Oh, there's a place in town I believe that sells, the concrete place sells it. So we're cruising right along here. We got just this back end now. We're working our way out the garage. One thing is, it's a good idea. I've got an actual gallon of Reducer 54 just sitting right out here in case something goes wrong. You need to clean the epoxy. Make sure you don't have any on your shoes. As we work our way out, we're gonna take our shoes off in case we have any epoxy on our shoes, and they'll be just working in our socks as we work our way out the garage. Because what you don't wanna do is track any epoxy on the driveway out there, because it's an absolute nightmare to try to get it off. And if you do, you wanna make sure you have the proper thinning product, and the product that we use, towel clad high solids, it's reduced with Reducer 54. So I got my last square here. I'm rolling, gonna be working my way right out the garage with our last square here. Just make sure that you don't have any epoxy on your shoes as you work your way out the garage. Now I'm working my way out here. I gotta set my bucket. We're just gonna set a drop cloth right here on the concrete to set the bucket on, because the bucket could have epoxy on it that you don't want to get on the concrete either. So there you have it. We got it all complete now, all rolled out. We're just gonna pull our tape, put all the rest of the epoxy in that 5 gallon bucket. All the tools are just trash, put them in the bucket, let them dry out, and then we'll throw them away. We're gonna lower this garage door down. At the end of the day, you wanna keep it up so all these fumes will just be well ventilated. And there you have it. That's the first coat of the epoxy. Now stay tuned for the next part, and this will be part 4, applying the second coat of epoxy. And then on this garage, we're actually gonna be applying some flex, and so we're some color flex that add a lot of color to it. They got 3 different colors, and we'll be spreading out these color flex and then adding a clear coat to that, and that will be the fifth part of my epoxy series. So now you can check out, if you haven't seen part 1 and 2, I'll have them right up here on both sides of my video where you can click on and watch part 1 and part 2. Well, that's it for part 3, applying the first coat of epoxy. Now click on the video right up here and I'll teach you how to apply the second coat of epoxy. And if you want to help support my channel, a simple, free way to do it is subscribing to my channel. And it'll keep you up to date with all my new and upcoming videos that I typically post weekly. And all it is a click of a button. Click right here to subscribe to my channel, The Idaho Painter. It's free. And thank you for watching my videos.